Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all over the world, wherever you're watching this from. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much for your support, for subscribing, watching, sharing, liking, dropping your comments. I am so grateful. Your support came as a validation that this channel is off to a good start. And I know that you will not be disappointed. Thank you once again. My name is Olushola Dada. I'm an architect, and a while ago, I embarked on this journey to find means by which regular people, average Nigerians like you and myself, can provide for themselves within their income affordable housing that is not just affordable, but built to taste and to their style. And this journey has led me through certain discoveries, certain revelations about the true state of the homelessness in our country. Discoveries along the line of causes, possible solutions, way forward, and how things can become better. The fundamental and underlying problems that transcends just putting the blame on the government like we always do. I do not want to come off as if I'm one to blame the government. The purpose of this channel is to shed light on ways by which we can make the housing situation better. And so, join me on this journey as we explore practicable solutions that can help the Nigerian man afford qualitative housing and hopefully break the back of homelessness in our country. Yes, a lot has gone into this project, but it seems to never be enough. And this means that all hands must be on deck. I hope you join me so that we can all play our parts on this journey to national development. This is very important to me. Understanding the importance of housing to national development. I always say it. Housing is as important to a nation as banking is, as import and export is. And so I strongly believe if we are to make our economy better, we need to solve housing problem. The solution to housing is a solution for prosperity. And with that, we move into the topic of today. Today, I will be looking at something that I called hypothesis and theory. And this is to shed more light on the previous discussion, harmony and balance, wherein I shared insights about how copying and pasting certain principles that have worked in other countries, in other cities, and bringing them into our communities where they do not fit. While saying that, may I reiterate the fact that I am not against city planning. Neither am I against the sincere activities of government to make our cities better. I am only saying, let us look at the problem of homelessness from a Nigerian point of view. Let us solve our problems our own way. To give context into this topic, I'd like us to consider certain things that some of these countries that we bring in what they've done and we try to apply it into our society, how they've been able to achieve that level of efficiency within their system, within their city planning. And this would justify the fact that city planning is not ready-made. City planning is a process. And we could count country after country that their process involved trial and error while developing their city plan or approach that they would take to zone, their planning laws and all of that. And that said, we would see how many of these countries have been able to develop and improve efficiency and effectiveness of their planning regulations. And even with that, there are still a lot of challenges that they battle with. But interestingly, a part of our city planning has been lifted from those societies and planted into ours, void of the Nigerian context, something I always like to call Nigerian flavor. So this was copy and pasted without the Nigerian flavor. Because if we had done that, we would have been able to know that, oh, housing that works in certain places will not work in ours because the margin between cost of living and level of income is not as wide as those other places. In Nigeria, you can hardly afford mortgage, but in those countries, there is existing framework that allows government to control what goes on in housing, which is lacking in our own Nigerian setting. And so because of this, it is not far-fetched why some part of our city planning and physical planning would not work. Taking for example, the never-ending battle of government against slum development, most especially in our cities. Year in, year out, season after season, there is always a community that has become a nuisance, a security loophole. These informal settlements have become such a menace to the government and an eyesore even to the common man that we do not want them to happen in our society. The Nigerian version of not in my backyard. And so nobody wants the slum in their backyard. But then we forget that this has come to stay. And the reason is this: many cannot afford the daily cost of living. And remember, housing or shelter, being the second most basic need of man, needs to be satisfied for human being to function. And that is why you hear many people say, "Omo, na to just make her sleep, make her wake up." Because the importance of having a place to lay your head at night and wake up the next morning to pursue your daily bread is as important to man as finding your daily bread. And when there are no means to meet this need, the human nature, it is inherent in human nature to be resourceful, to provide alternatives for himself within his means. We could go as far back as the Stone Age of how man has adapted and evolved in providing to meet his own needs. And so, coming back to our society, every corner of our city, of our streets are filled with slum, which I personally prefer to call temporary shelter development. So if you hear me say slum or temporary shelter development, they mean the same thing within the context of this discussion. So almost everywhere you turn in our society, in our streets, in our cities, you find one or two temporary shelter developments, because this is a reaction to the high cost of living, outrageous cost of rent that cannot be met by the low level of income. Hypothesis: slum can be adopted as a tool to fight slum. Okay, let me break that down. If you remember some time ago in this country, the police had a slogan, and it was fire for fire. The fire of armed robbery met with the fire of the police force. In like manner, slum against slum, a mutually beneficial agreement between the owners of these temporary bachas and government, in such a way that it helps the government to control and helps the people to survive. And to get to how it works, I'd like to lay some background understanding. And the first is, everybody who owns a temporary bacha paid for it, paid for the space, paid for the construction. And which means whoever owns that development paid for the land, either as a rent or as a lease or as a short stay, and also paid for the construction, no matter how cheap or indecent it is. That's number one. Number two is government year in, year out demolishes and expels these people, only for them to resurface again. And regardless of whatever government has done, slum moves around. That is, it never goes away because the underlying factors still remain. It's safe to then say that until we eradicate the underlying factors of improving the economy, slum might persist. It is against this knowledge that I propose, in the hope that it could be a solution to the problem of slum. And this is how it works. If it starts with the government through the local council, through the local government areas, the LCDAs, finding and allocating a particular location to accommodate every form of temporary housing, temporary shelter, or bacha in the same location. I know this might pose security threats and other social vices, but then this is an hypothesis. And so government informs and allows the owners of these temporary bachas to move into that allocated location and thus outlaw every other form of this temporary dwelling in any other part of the community. So say for example, location X, Y, and Z used to be slum locations. Then the government moves everybody to location J. Then location X, Y, Z, and every other alphabet becomes outlawed with the exception of J, which is the zone that has been allocated for this slum development. And this will, number one, be paid for to gain access. So instead of making payments to some area chief or some area landlords, did not guarantee your protection from government expulsion. Why not make this payment into government for an agreed tenure of stay? Yes, you're bringing your temporary shelter, but this is going to be for 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. And within this time, you are staying here with the background knowledge, with the understanding that as at the expiration of this tenure, government holds every responsibility. Government holds the authority and the right and the privilege to come and take over and take back the land. Remember that this land belongs originally to the government. And so it becomes general knowledge, public notice, that certain location that has been allocated temporarily for bacha development belongs to the government and can be taken over by the government in the duration of tenure as agreed between the two parties. And what this would give the government is, yes, not particularly revenue generation, but yes, something for the state which goes into the purse of the government, and the ability to confidently outlaw bacha development in every other part of the state or the city or the community, while offering the people the guarantee of safety, the guarantee that within this time, within your tenure, within your agreed tenure, you have guaranteed stay or guaranteed protection or guaranteed security, that your home is not going to be demolished overnight. So what this hypothesis offers us is the opportunity to test and improve and iterate. I mean, within this framework, we could then bring in or introduce schemes that allows, should the government decide to do an extended stay for these people, certain individuals who have stayed long and who have been faithful to their commitment can then be upgraded to a rent-to-own arrangement that allows them to now become landlords. And so slowly and gradually, the slum, in quotes, can then become upgraded into permanent residence, thereby slowly eradicating slum. This is not a 5-year journey, neither is it a 20-year journey, but we need to see a long-term goal to this plan. And this is why I believe that the hypothesis slum for slum may be a vital tool, a key solution to the problem of slum in our environment. I hope I have not bored you with these imaginations of mine. I mean, if only we could have the will to try it out. Just maybe, who knows? But please let me know what you think about this. Do you think this slum for slum could be a solution? Do you think this is worth the government's consideration? Or do you think we are just wasting our time? Please share your opinion in the comment section. Once again, thank you so much for your time. See you next time.